I put out a last call for any members who are trying to get to this hearing to ask questions. Senator Lujan and I are each going to ask a final question. Mr. Kaczynski, you stated that many of the satellites providing coverage to the United States expose network traffic outside of our borders. So how do we meaningfully improve encryption and security protocols across our satellite infrastructure and inconsistency that you highlighted?
It's an excellent question. I think a few key points that are critical. The first is, we see consistently, and I think this is a true point across both telecom and the satellite industry, most of the operators are not vertically integrated, and so they're heavily reliant on a supply chain to build those subsystems that go in, things that enable those encryption capabilities. It's important that we extend the threat sharing information and the opportunity down into the supply chain and ensure that we're building the right secure by design subsystems with flexible encryption protocols and other appropriate security considerations from the ground up. We've seen very publicly some of the examples where that's gone poorly, where foreign supplied components had security vulnerabilities present in them from the initial delivery. Encouraging that same approach throughout the satellite industry, I think, is incredibly important. The second point is recognizing that in most cases, the folks that are designing and building these systems have the best view of what the vulnerabilities are and may be. They can be a great partner in closing those. And we've seen consistently the application of well-intended checklists on defense systems often aren't designed with the end system architecture in mind. Having that in-depth, open conversation has been incredibly valuable in securing other systems that we've built and delivered over the years. And I think that's a great model to follow out into the future.
Thank you. And Mr. Jaffer, how severe do you think the threat is to our space systems that we have?
I mean, I think the threat is quite severe. You just look at a capability that China has. They have the SJ-21 satellite. This is a repair satellite. It's designed to remove debris. They demonstrate the ability to grapple another satellite and move it to a different orbit. Now, you think about what that could do if used in an offensive manner. That's obviously a huge problem. China has that capability. Other nations have that capability. The threat to our infrastructure is huge, and they don't even have to take out a satellite directly. They can destroy one satellite, and the debris itself, the debris field, can cause problems for our satellites. It's a huge issue in outer space. It's a real challenge, and we've got to make our satellites defensible. And part of it is having a diversity of systems, like we talked about with cables. If you can have more satellites going up faster, that's actually going to create a more resilient and more capable system. It's also going to make it more technologically efficient because we'll get newer capabilities into space faster. So the better we can get at launch, the better we can get at building smaller and faster, more capable satellites, the better off we'll be.
Thank you. Senator Lujan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Mayor, in your testimony, you said that any cybersecurity framework needs to be flexible and adaptive. Mm-hmm. I agree. Do you agree with me that the FCC has a role to play in ensuring that our communication networks are protected against cybersecurity threats?
Absolutely, yes.
Appreciate that. Now, recently, Senator Peters asked a question around U.S. telecom, their role, their advocacy to reverse the FCC's actions in response to Salt Typhoon. A few things that the FCC required was changing default passwords, requiring minimum password strength, adopting multi-factor authentication, and patching known vulnerabilities, all simple things. Congress is constantly told that we're behind the curve on technology, even if we have these basic protections in place. Which of these basic protections was too burdensome for your member organizations?
Senator, I think these are not, what you're describing are not burdensome.
I appreciate that. That's an answer. I appreciate that. With that being said, do your member companies have cybersecurity risk management plans?
Absolutely. They've been working on this for many, many years. They're evolving their risk management plans.
Are you willing to share those with the committee?
The risk management plans?
Yes.
No, we're in a trade association. I can't say what our members are willing to share.
So you're telling me to trust you?
I'm telling you that we're doing a lot, and we have been doing a lot, and you can ask our government partners whether they think we're doing a lot, because I do believe—
I have a follow-up there as well, but I appreciate it. The reason I'm asking you these questions, sir, is you of all the panelists today, my constituents depend on your members every day, all day, around the clock, all day long. As a matter of fact, most of my small businesses right now just rely on the services that your member companies provide. That's why I'm picking on you. So I apologize for that. But it matters to my constituents. Now, Earlier, there was a question asked by Senator Schmidt about requirements for contracts for the federal government to be wise around taxpayer dollars. And I heard at least two of the panelists suggest, well, that might be a good idea to require anyone doing work with the federal government to meet, is it fair to say, a floor of standards, a floor of requirements in order to safeguard taxpayer dollars? Would that be fair? Well, let me just, that's my assumption. If I'm incorrect, I'd invite you to submit into the record where I got that wrong. Now, I asked my staff to let me know how much money the federal government over the last few fiscal years has spent in a very specific area, namely in telecommunication contracts. They told me that what GAO says is 2014 and 2018, the government spent $30 billion, $30 billion for telecommunication contracts, $4 billion for call center contracts, $6 billion per year that has likely gone up, $14.3 billion for IT services for FY24 alone, $3.2 billion in IT and telecom products for FY24. I look forward to working with you all to have requirements that there's I'm not looking for an answer here. I just look forward to working with you all. That there's a floor of cyber requirements. That's a lot of money. And we talk about national security vulnerabilities and how we outsource all of our work to call centers. The smallest of the small in the most rural part of America that allows someone in, an actor in, infects the whole system. And so I certainly hope that these are some areas that we can get together. Last question I have, Madam Chair, is to Mr. Joffer. You served on the Cyber Safety Review Board, CRSB, which was under the Department of Homeland Security. My question is a simple one. Was it a mistake to disband this board?
Well, we were asked to look at the Salt Typhoon hack, and because of internal government bureaucracy and decisions, we were unable to even get off the ground. We weren't able to get our clearances in time. We weren't able to do any questioning of any of the communications companies, of any of the government individuals involved. So we were tasked with the Cyber Safety Review Board review months in advance. We took months, didn't get anything done, and then the board was disbanded. Should it have been disbanded? No. Should it be back? Absolutely. But even when it was in place, under the 4 or 5 months that I served on that board, we got nothing effectively done because it wasn't allowed to do its work. There were claims about, because there was a law enforcement investigation going on, because industry was partnering with the government, they couldn't talk to us. We even asked to talk to providers that said they weren't affected by Salt Typhoon. We weren't allowed to do that. So the board wasn't being used effectively. It shouldn't have been disbanded. It would be better if it was back in. But if it's going to be back in place, it needs to be used effectively. At the end of the day, I think what Congress ought to think about doing is impaneling an outside commission to look at what happened in Salt Typhoon and Volt Typhoon and make recommendations to you, like the 9/11 Commission did, about what we should do most effectively to get the executive branch, the legislative branch, and industry back together and work in this issue.
I'm glad I asked the question. So if, in fact, that body is brought back, it needs to be fixed and it needs to be effective, and the tools need to be in place to be able to discover all the information, to be able to provide information to Congress. In addition to that, your recommendation now of an outside commission as well. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Lujan.